What kind of pain could make a goddess walk into her own father's palace and never return the same again? What kind of love could be so deep that a woman would choose fire over a life without dignity? And what kind of insult could shake the heavens so violently that even Shiva, the great ascetic, the silent one, the destroyer of worlds, would be pushed into unbearable rage? This is not just a story about love, it is a story about pride, about devotion, about humiliation, about a daughter who was born into greatness, but was forced to choose between her father's world and the truth of her own soul. And perhaps the most heartbreaking part is this. Before Parvati, before the divine union that so many people know today, there was another name, Dakshayani, and her story begins with beauty, devotion, and destiny. But it ends in one of the most tragic moments in all of Hindu mythology. Many people know Shiva as the god of destruction and transformation. Many know Parvati as his eternal consort. But before Parvati there was Dakshayani, also known as Sati, the first wife of Shiva, and one of the most emotionally powerful figures in Hindu mythology. Her very name reveals her origin. Dakshayani means daughter of Daksha. She was born to Daksha Prajapati, one of the great progenitors and powerful figures in the cosmic order. Dakshayani, not born as an ordinary daughter. In many traditions, she is understood as an embodiment of Shakti, the divine feminine energy itself. So, from the very beginning, her story was never meant to be simple. She was born into power, born into status, born into sacred lineage. And yet, her heart was drawn not to kings, not to luxury, not to worldly greatness, but to Shiva. And that is where the conflict began. Because in the eyes of the world, Shiva did not look like the perfect groom. He did not live in palaces. He did not seek approval. He did not decorate himself with royal pride. He lived in silence among ashes, mountains, serpents, and stillness beyond human understanding. To some, Shiva looked wild, untamed, detached from all worldly order. But Dakshayani saw something deeper. She did not see madness, she saw truth. She did not see a frightening god. She saw a being beyond ego, beyond illusion, beyond the empty decorations of status and pride. The more she heard of Shiva, the more deeply her soul turned toward him. And soon, that devotion became unshakable. But there was one person who could not accept it. Her father. Daksha was a symbol of power, structure, social order, and pride. He valued status, ritual, recognition, and hierarchy. And because of that, he could not understand why his daughter would give her heart to Shiva, a god who seemed to reject everything Daksha valued most. To Daksha, Shiva was not worthy. Not because Shiva lacked greatness, but because his greatness could not be measured by worldly standards. And that is one of the deepest tensions in this story. It is not simply the clash of two men, it is the clash between outer status and inner truth, between appearance and essence, between pride and spiritual vision. Dakshayani did not turn away. She remained devoted to Shiva. She prayed. She performed austerities. She held firmly to the love and truth she carried in her heart. And in time, that devotion was answered. Shiva accepted her. Their union was not just a marriage. It was a sacred joining of Shiva and Shakti, consciousness and energy, stillness and creation, the eternal masculine and divine feminine. It should have been a moment of blessing. But Daksha's pride did not soften. He never truly accepted Shiva. And that hidden resentment slowly grew into something much darker. Then came the moment that changed everything. Daksha decided to perform a grand Yajna, a magnificent sacred ritual. Gods, sages, and celestial beings were invited. The gathering was meant to display power, purity, prestige, and spiritual authority. But there was one deliberate insult. Daksha did not invite Shiva, and he did not invite Dakshayani either. When Dakshayani learned of this great ceremony, something inside her stirred. It was her father's home, her father's ritual, her family. A part of her still hoped, a part of her still believed that perhaps a daughter could go where love had once begun. Shiva understood the danger immediately. He knew Daksha's heart had not changed. He knew pride can wound more deeply than weapons. He knew that where ego is worshipped, love is often humiliated. But Dakshayani still chose to go, and this is what makes her story so painful. She did not go as a goddess of power, she went as a daughter still carrying a fragile hope that she would not be rejected. But when she arrived, she was not welcomed with warmth. There was no affection, no dignity, no respect. Instead, Daksha openly insulted Shiva. He mocked him. He dishonored him. He treated the one Dakshayani loved most as though he were beneath contempt. And in that moment, something shattered inside her. Because this was no longer just a disagreement. This was not just a father refusing a son-in-law. This was a public humiliation of the truth she had devoted her soul to. Dakshayani stood there and realized something devastating. There are places where you were born, but where your spirit no longer belongs. There are people called family who still cannot see your heart. And there are moments when silence becomes impossible because to remain would be to betray your own dignity. Overwhelmed by grief, anguish, and sacred outrage, Dakshayani made the most painful choice of all. She renounced the body born from Daksha. In many tellings, she entered the sacrificial fire, refusing to continue carrying a form tied to a father who had insulted the divine truth she loved. And that is the moment her story became immortal. Because Dakshayani did not leave this world merely out of sorrow. She left as a declaration that love without dignity is unbearable, that devotion cannot live under humiliation, that a sacred soul cannot remain where truth is mocked. And when this reached Shiva, the universe itself trembled. The silent god was no longer silent. His grief became fury. His stillness became devastation. In the legends, Shiva's rage led to the destruction of Daksha's sacrifice. The cosmic order itself was shaken by the pain of loss, by the violence of insult, and by the unbearable cost of pride. But even that was not the end. Because in Hindu mythology, true endings rarely remain endings, Dakshayani would be reborn. She would return as Parvati, daughter of the mountain, and once again unite with Shiva in a higher and more complete form. And that is why Dakshayani's story is not only tragic, it is transformative. She is not remembered only as the first wife of Shiva. She is remembered as the soul who loved with absolute devotion. The daughter who stood at the breaking point between family and truth. The woman who refused to let humiliation define her sacred love. And the divine feminine force that returns stronger through rebirth. That is what makes Dakshayani unforgettable. Her story is not only about gods, it is about anyone who has ever had to choose between outer acceptance and inner truth. Anyone who has ever loved something deeply while the world refused to understand it. Anyone who has ever stood in a place that should have felt like home and realized it no longer was. And maybe that is why her story still hurts. Because beneath all the mythology, Dakshayani reminds us of something deeply human. That sometimes the greatest pain does not come from enemies. It comes from being wounded by those who were supposed to love us. But her story also reminds us of something greater. That even after the deepest heartbreak, the soul can rise again. If this story moved you, leave a comment and tell me, what do you think was the most painful part of Dakshayani's story, her father's pride, or her final sacrifice? And if you enjoy powerful stories from Hindu mythology, filled with devotion, emotion, and spiritual meaning, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who would feel the depth of this story too.